I walked into the ballroom alone. The scent of roses and candle wax was thick in the air, but all I could feel was the weight of every eye that pretended not to look. The hostess at the front gave me the kind of smile you offer someone who just missed the shuttle bus. Warm, but late. Behind her, the Monroe table glowed under chandelier light already full. My sister Alyssa leaned into her husband laughing. When she saw me, her smile froze just for a second, and then she looked back at her phone. The usher led me past the main tables toward the outer ring near the emergency exit and the dessert table. Table 14. Seated there. Great Aunt June, who hadn't heard a full sentence since 2011. My cousin Lila's son with AirPods jammed in both ears, and an empty chair next to a wilted centerpiece. That chair was mine. Single guests usually go here, the usher said, gesturing politely. More flexibility. I took the seat, pulled my charcoal gray dress straight. I had chosen it carefully understated, structured, strong. Now I felt like I had dressed for a meeting no one else showed up to. Alyssa glanced over. I caught her whispering something to Mom. They both looked at me then away, like they'd expected me to bring someone, or maybe hoped I wouldn't show. I didn't ask for a +1. I didn't want to sit at the head table or make a scene. I just thought maybe this time I wouldn't be reduced to a quiet footnote. When the music shifted for the bouquet toss, the DJ called for all the single ladies. A ripple of laughter passed through the room. A few guests looked my way. Aunt June chuckled vaguely. I stayed seated. I kept my hands in my lap and my eyes on the flickering candles. And I wondered not for the first time if anyone here would even notice if I'd never walked in at all. Growing up, I was the quiet one. Not the brilliant one that was Alyssa with her pageant crowns and dance recitals and perfect SAT scores. Not the rebellious one either that was our cousin Dean who got caught smoking in 9th grade and somehow became a creative spirit. I was just there. On time. In line. Useful. My mom used to say I was low maintenance. She meant it as a compliment, I think. I took care of my own schoolwork. Cleaned up without being asked. When Alyssa had strep throat, I gave up my room so she could rest away from the noise. When Dad lost his job for a while, I offered to skip senior prom in the dress we couldn't afford. He didn't say thank you, just nodded like it was expected. I learned early that being good didn't earn you attention. It just gave people permission to overlook you more confidently. Alyssa was always in the spotlight, and I didn't mind. Not at first. I clapped for her at graduation, took her headshots for college theater. Even stayed up one night editing her resume while she cried over a breakup. "You're the only one who doesn't make me feel like a failure," she said, sniffling into a throw pillow. Funny. A few years later, she told people I probably wasn't coming around much because I was too busy being a career girl in the city. I had taken a leave of absence from work that month. I was in the middle of a breakup that left me with 2 drawers of clothes and garbage bags and a lease I couldn't afford. But no one asked. No one knew. Because I didn't make noise. I never had. When I launched my first national campaign for Luminacore, the local paper wrote a blurb. My mom clipped it out and stuck it in the kitchen drawer next to coupons and expired warranty slips. Alyssa got a bridal shower with 40 guests and custom champagne flutes. I got a mug that said Girl Boss from the clearance bin. Still, I showed up to her engagement party, helped her pick centerpieces. Drove 3 hours to take her dogs to the vet the week she had COVID. Then, last Christmas, when I asked if we were doing anything as a family, she texted, "It's kind of just immediate family this year. Super small." I stared at the message for a full minute. I had given her rides, helped her lie to an ex, covered for her when she couldn't pay rent. But when it was her turn, the first one to quietly erase me, was the one I thought I had always protected. The clink of silverware and the swell of violin signaled dinner was starting. I cut my chicken with mechanical precision, trying not to think about how many guests glanced toward table 14, then away, like I was an unfinished sentence in a room full of conclusions. Then the ballroom doors opened again, not with the quiet slip of late arrivals, but with the kind of pause that makes a room inhale. A man stood in the entryway, tall, composed, dressed in a dark navy suit that fit like it had been made for him. His eyes scanned the room once quickly and then locked on me. Before I could react, he was walking toward my table straight through clusters of guests and champagne flutes and startled conversations. He didn't pause, didn't glance sideways. He walked up to me, leaned in close, and said, "Sorry I'm late, love." Traffic was brutal. Then he kissed my cheek. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't awkward. It was the kind of kiss that said, "This is ours." Not performative, not forced, just late. I sat frozen, utterly, completely confused. He smiled at me softly. Just the corners of his eyes crinkled. "If you want me to stop, just say so." I didn't say anything. I didn't move either. He turned to the usher who'd been watching us with a fork in midair. "There seems to have been a seating mix-up. I believe I'm with her." "Yes, of course," the usher mumbled, standing abruptly. And suddenly, we were being walked toward the main table, toward my family. I heard the gasp before I saw the look on Alyssa's face. Her husband leaned toward her, eyebrows raised. My mom's mouth opened, then shut. Ethan, because that's the name he whispered as we walked, kept one hand lightly on the small of my back, just enough to steady, not enough to claim. We were placed between my uncle and cousin Lila. Someone handed us wine. I still hadn't said a word. He leaned toward me again, voice low. "You looked like you needed a reset. I'll explain later. Just go with it if you want." I looked at him. The man knew my name. Knew enough about me to walk into a room like he belonged next to me. Knew how to whisper in a way that didn't claim, just offered. Everyone was watching, but for the first time in hours, I didn't feel like disappearing. After the toasts, the clinking glasses, and a few politely confused stares, I finally turned to him. "You going to tell me who you are now?" He smiled. "You don't remember me, do you?" I tilted my head. "Should I?" Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded place card. My name was written on it, carefully, in my own handwriting. "You left this behind, 5 years ago. Hotel conference room, Chicago. Green blouse. Marketing leadership seminar. You said, if you're not building something real, you're just adding noise." That stuck. I stared at the card. It was from a breakout session I barely remembered. I must have jotted my name on it during a Q&A. "You were there. I was in the back. I wasn't even in your group, but I heard you speak." He said it like someone describing a song they didn't know they needed until it started playing. "You work in marketing?" I asked. He shook his head. "Finance. But your talk made me switch companies. Left a place where everything was polished but hollow." I started again. Smaller firm. Real culture. Real people. And today, he glanced toward the table where Alyssa was cutting her fillet, eyes darting toward us every few minutes. "I saw you sitting alone. You looked like you were about to vanish." So I walked in. My heart was ticking louder than the music. "Why now?" I asked, softer. He looked at me, and not in the way people look at you when they want something. He looked like someone who'd been waiting to say something for a long time and finally found the space. "Because I owed you a moment. The kind of moment you once gave without knowing. No strings. Just presence." I blinked, looked down at my dress. The same one I almost didn't wear because it felt too strong. He raised his glass slightly, to the green blouse. I didn't smile. Not fully, but I did raise my glass back. For the first time all evening, my hands weren't folded in my lap. They were holding something warm. The music swelled again, upbeat now. Guests filed toward the dance floor. Ethan leaned in, asking gently, "Want to get some air?" I nodded and we slipped onto the terrace, one of those wraparound hotel balconies overlooking a city that doesn't care who you are. The wind was crisp. It smelled like winter and cigarette breaks. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all night. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "I think I'm waiting for someone to walk out here and tell me I'm being dramatic." He chuckled. "Well, they'd be wrong." Silence settled between us, not heavy, just real. Then the door creaked open. Alyssa. She stepped out with that practiced grace. She always had heels silent on the concrete. Her dress shimmered like she was still 12 and still being told to smile for the camera. "I knew something was off," she said. "You're not dating anyone. So who is he?" Her tone wasn't angry. It was irritated, like I had messed up her seating chart. He's someone who saw me, I said simply. That's not an answer. I didn't respond. She turned to Ethan. Do you even know her? Or are you just here to get attention? Ethan didn't blink. I'm here because she deserved to not be alone in a room full of people pretending she didn't exist. Alyssa scoffed. You don't know what she's like. He smiled politely. I know enough. A beat passed. The door opened again, Mom. Her eyes flicked from me to Alyssa, then to Ethan. She didn't say hi, didn't ask why we were outside. She just said, You didn't need to make a scene. This is Alyssa's day. That's when I felt it. The same pressure I'd felt my whole life to shrink so she could shine. I nodded slowly. Then I looked at Ethan. Thank you for walking in. His brow creased slightly. You're leaving? I've been leaving, I said. Just took me a while to stand up. I turned to Alyssa. Don't worry, you'll still have your spotlight. You always do. Then to Mom. You can stop pretending I surprised you by existing. I walked past them back inside, past the white linens and gold-rimmed plates, and the family name etched into the centerpiece menu card. Back toward table 14, where no one was waiting but the chair was still warm. I was halfway through packing my overnight bag at the hotel when there was a knock. I opened the door slowly. Alyssa stood there, shoes in hand, mascara slightly smudged, clutching a bottle of water like a peace offering. I don't want to fight, she said. I just wanted to say something. I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the window seat, the city lights catching the edge of her shoulder straps. I saw your face tonight, she said quietly. When Mom said it was my day. She looked down at her hands. I used to love being the golden one, being the favorite. Thought it meant I'd earned something. But it turns out it just means everyone assumes you're fine until you shatter. I didn't say anything. She laughed, brittle and short. 3 months ago, I found messages on Kevin's phone. He said they were nothing, but they didn't look like nothing. Mom told me not to overreact. Dad said marriage is work. So I smiled. Again. She looked up at me. Do you know how many times I've smiled when I wanted to disappear? That stopped me. Because I did know. I knew exactly how that felt. I erased you, she said. Not because I hated you, because you reminded me there was another way to live, one that didn't require stage makeup. She breathed in. I thought if I kept being the shiny one, maybe no one would ask what was underneath. We sat there for a long moment, not sisters or enemies or background characters, just 2 women raised in the same storybook, realizing neither of them wrote the plot. I didn't need you to say sorry, I finally said. I just needed you to stop pretending I wasn't standing right next to you. Alyssa nodded. Then she reached into her purse and handed me something. A printed copy of the wedding menu. Gold foil embossed names. Her name, Kevin's name, Mom and Dad's name, and a small handwritten note on the bottom corner. You were never invisible. I just made sure you stayed in the dark. I folded the menu carefully. No tears, no hugs. Just one shared silence that held more truth than any toast that night. The ballroom was quiet now. Most of the guests had drifted upstairs or to the bar. The staff moved like shadows, clearing glasses and folding linen napkins. I stood by the hotel's back garden where a few string lights still flickered overhead. My heels dangled from my fingers. The air smelled like rosemary and frost. Ethan appeared beside me, 2 mugs of something steaming in hand. Not wine, he said. Just cider. Thought you could use something without consequences. I took it. Warm ceramic. Simple. I'm not sure what tonight was, I said softly. Neither am I, he replied. But I didn't come to be a story. I came because once you looked up during a panel full of noise and said something honest, it stayed with me. I figured maybe I could return the favor. He didn't reach for my hand, didn't fill the silence, just sipped his cider and looked out toward the garden. I'm not someone you need to rescue, I said after a minute. He turned. His expression didn't shift. Still steady. I know, he said. I don't want to rescue you. I want to walk beside you if that's something you'd let me do." It wasn't a line. It wasn't even hopeful. It was an offering. I sat down on the low stone bench. He stayed standing for a beat, then joined me, not close, not far. Just next to me. We drank in silence. The kind that doesn't need to be filled. The kind that says, "I see you. You don't have to smile." After a while, he said, "You don't have to decide anything tonight, but if you want a seat beside someone who already respects you, I'll keep showing up." I didn't answer. But I didn't stand up either. The string lights buzzed faintly above, and for the first time in years, I realized stillness doesn't always mean being stuck. Sometimes it means you're safe enough to stop running. 2 weeks later, I received a message from Mom. "We're doing a post-wedding brunch at our place. Very casual. Would be nice to have you stop by." No apology. No context. Just brunch. I stared at the screen, unmoved. Then I looked at the printed wedding menu Alyssa had left with me, still folded, still tucked between pages of my planner. One line in gold foil, Monroe family table, reserved. I replied, "Sure, I'll come." The house hadn't changed. Same floral couch, same glass figurines in the cabinet, same smell of lemon cleaner and thyme. They were already gathered around the long dining table, the one I hadn't sat at in over a year. As I walked in, a few heads turned. Alyssa smiled small real. Kevin nodded. My father coughed lightly like the air had shifted. Mom gestured vaguely. "There's room." One chair sat empty, not at the corner, not at the kids' table, near the middle. I walked over and pulled it out myself. No one jumped to help. No one made a speech, but no one objected either. I sat down. The room didn't erupt in joy. It didn't freeze in shame. It just adjusted. Like it remembered there had been a space unbalanced. Alyssa passed me the orange juice without a word. I poured my own. No toast. No tears. Just the sound of forks against plates. But across the table, Ethan, yes, he was there, caught my eye. He didn't wink. He didn't nod. Just looked at me the same way he did that first night. Like I wasn't missing. Like I wasn't an afterthought. Like I belonged. And maybe I always had. Not because they finally made space, but because I stopped waiting for someone else to pull out the chair. I didn't come back to be chosen. I came back so they'd stop pretending I was never there. If you've ever waited for someone to pull out a seat for you, you're not the only one.